Hey there, Rednecks, Preppies, Redneck Preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How you doing today? Great? Good. So if you happen to follow the YouTube channel and maybe check out my other social media on occasion, it might not come as a surprise to you that I really like fishing a lot. In fact, I think it's actually fair to say that of all my outdoor pursuits, fishing is actually my greatest passion. So much so that in my personal and my private life, it's pretty much everyone knows that if I'm going outdoors and I'm doing something, it's probably going to be fishing. So much so that at work, my teams tend to get me, fishing related cards and gifts, during my birthday or holidays, whatever it may be. And in my private life, well, yeah, again, presents often tend to revolve around fishing. So much so that if I have a choice between fishing and, let's say, jeeping or shooting or reloading or hunting or whatever it may be, I'm pretty much always going to take fishing over those other pursuits. And yet, whenever anyone asks me, why do you love fishing so much? I'm kind of sometimes at a loss as to how to answer. I usually respond with something smart-ass like, how could you not love fishing that much? And, everyone smiles and the conversation carries on to something else. I was talking to my dad a couple months ago, and he asked me, what was I doing that weekend? And I said, well, of course I'm going fishing, Dad. What else? And he kind of stopped and he said, well, Redneck, why do you love fishing so much? And I was kind of at a loss, and I might have said something, again, smart ass, like, what else am I gonna do? Fishing is the thing to do. And he kind of nodded, and he was like, and then suddenly this kind of change came over his face, and it was almost like I saw him traveling back in time. And I saw his eyes kind of like go distant, and he started to tell me a story. He said, and these are his own words, he goes, I came to Canada in 1966. And when I came here, I didn't really know anybody, he said. And about the only person that I did know was my father, who had emigrated here right after World War II. So my dad was a little lonely, he said, because he didn't know anybody. So one day, in an effort to kind of cheer him up, some of his friends at work took him fishing, and they took him on a boat, a tinny, I'm sure it was, out onto the French River, which is a well-known river up here in Northern Ontario. I don't know what he was fishing for that day, but, they went out fishing, and, they were having a good time, and then all of a sudden, wham! Something hit my dad's line, and it was big, whatever it was. So dutifully, my dad, started reeling it in and that stuff, and the fish being as big and as powerful it was, it would periodically strip out line, make a run, and go back all the way out again. And my dad kept fighting this thing for a long, long time. He didn't know what it was, but whatever it was big. Okay, this is one of those once-in-a-lifetime fish. Line rips out again, and just at that moment, a boat passed between the boat that my dad was in and where the fish was off, and it cut the line. Needless to say, my father was quite disappointed. It was the fish that got away, right? It was this big. No, it was that big. It was huge, whatever it was. Through the whole time I was looking at my dad, he was telling me this story, I could see like this smile on his lips, man. Like, he was like reliving this moment of this fish. And after he was done the story, he kind of, came back and, he looked at me again, and he was like, I still remember that fish, he said, Redneck, but I never even saw it. And I kind of looked at my dad and I said, Dad, you just explained why I like fishing so much. It's those memories that you form, whether you're fishing with someone else or you're fishing by yourself. It's just those little moments in life where the rest of the world just fades away, and all of a sudden it's just you and a fish. I still remember a 3.5-pound smallmouth bass I caught years ago off of a submerged barge on Lake Panage. Me and my brother-in-law were in a boat. I still remember, I can close my eyes and I can vividly see it. I dropped a line about 9 feet down. It had a watermelon and black flake 6-inch Senko. And I could see the fish just sitting there. And I dropped the line literally the lure about 6 inches, in front of him. And he went for it, hit it. And I brought that sucker up, man. And I remember giving a yelp of excitement to the point that a woman who was like 70 feet away, she was on shore watching us, kind of started clapping. And she said, great job. I could tell from here that it was a great fish. I remember fishing in the Turks and Caicos, again with my brother-in-law and another friend. And I remember the bonefish being on my line, just ripping line off because it was being chased by sharks around the boat. I still remember that. I remember the time that I caught this large pike on the Vermilion River, shore fishing, and it was one of those rare large pikes that just didn't sit there and you were dragging it in. This sucker fought, and he was ripping line too, and I didn't have a leader on, and the whole time I was afraid that I was going to lose that fish and the lure. It was one of my favorite lures. It was a red and white Zara spook, one of the smaller ones. Still got that lure, by the way. I still use it. So I didn't lose that fish, and I brought it in. And I remember bringing it to my parents, and my mother had it for dinner because it was a big fish, had a lot of meat on it. That's why I fish. It's those little moments that decades later, in my dad's case, 50 years later, he still remembered a fish he didn't even catch. And I mean, I've got those stories too. I can vividly remember the fish that I didn't catch just as well as the fish that I did catch. My fishing with my sister and brother-in-law, again on Lake Penage this past summer, my sister asked me, she said, Redneck, why do you obsessively record all of the fish that you catch with your GoPro? And I kind of facetiously answered, well, you know what, sis, there'll come a time in my life where I'm not going to be able to do this. I'll be too old or too infirm or something, whatever it may be, and all I'll have is these videos to remind me of us fishing. In reality, though, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I'm actually going to need those videos. I can still remember the huge pike that she caught off the shore of Lake Penage a couple of years ago. I still remember that near 5-pound smallmouth that I caught off the shore of the Vermilion River last year. I remember all of these things, and I doubt that I'll ever forget them. Even when I'm old and infirm, and maybe I won't even be able to use the remote control or the mind control device, whatever we'll be controlling our televisions and such with. I might not be able to use those, but I'll still be able to relive each and every single one of those fish in my mind. And I guess that's kind of why I fish so much. Like I said, those memories, those indelible memories that, shuts the world off. There's no phones, there's no TPS reports, none of that. It's just fish, catching a fish. That one moment where you and another being are tied together by a thin strand of line, and your only hope is that you catch it. Its only hope is that it gets away, and one of you will win. But even if you lose it, it's still kind of like a majestic moment where, the world becomes very small at that point and very quiet. And it's just you fishing. And I guess maybe that's why I fish. Maybe that's why I love fishing so much. Anyway, I'm not sure why I made this video. I think I just kind of needed to get that out as to why I love fishing so much. And maybe also get my dad's story out, because we never got to go fishing. By the time I got into fishing, he had given it up a few years earlier after my grandfather sold his camp. And, my dad was busy, earning money, raising a family, and he kind of didn't have a chance anymore to fish. And we never did get a chance to fish. He's still with us. I don't mean to imply that he's not, but at this point, he's at that age where he's watching videos of me catching fish rather than being able to catch them himself, unfortunately. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you found it at least vaguely entertaining. If you got your own stories, please feel free to leave them in the description below. At any rate, I hope you have yourself a great day, and may all of your lines always be tight, and go fishing with someone you love. Take care. Bye-bye.